This is In Step with Compliance, a podcast by the Modern Practice Solutions team for dental professionals.
My name is Olivia Wann, and this is In Step with Compliance podcast, sponsored by Modern Practice Solutions. We're excited to discuss in this episode about traveling with laptop computers. It's that time of year. People are going on vacation, spending time with family and friends, and if you're traveling with your practice-issued laptop computer, there's certain considerations to keep in mind to be sure that the data is protected. So to kick us off on this episode, we're going to discuss with Brenda first on your thoughts about passwords. So how can they protect their notebook computer with passwords, Brenda?
Thank you, Olivia. It's important to update all the passwords to something that's very difficult to crack, such as a lengthy word that no one would immediately associate with you. Certain letters should be capitalized, lowercase, numbers, symbols, anything to make that a more difficult password. And don't use the same password for every application login. And one thing that I think our clients don't often realize is that even simple storage devices like your USB thumb drive should have a password.
Good point. That can be often overlooked. And I was thinking about how when we do complex passwords, they're hard to remember, right? So we recommend 1Password, which is a password vault that is encrypted, that can store all your passwords safely. So thank you for sharing your insight, Brenda, on coming up with complex passwords. Terri, what about the login applications and multi-factor authentication?
Thanks, Olivia. The multi-factor login is important. It's a critical system that requires you to insert an unlocking USB device or a biometric lock, and that is assuming that that feature is available on your device. The multi-factor authentication will send you a notification to a separate device, and it will give you a code that you can enter. Or if you're using a biometric, then that would be facial recognition or a thumbprint or something along those lines. So not only are you entering your password, but you're also adding a second layer of protection to your data.
And I have to admit this quite honestly, that several years back, before I had my TSA approval, I was actually traveling to Chicago to present at the ADA corporate location, and my laptop, because I had to remove it from the bag, I forgot it. And it was the scariest thing when I got out of the cab and I grabbed my laptop bag and it felt light. And I thought, uh-oh, something's wrong. And sure enough, I had left my laptop at the Nashville airport, but I always tape my business card to the back of the laptop. And I'm so glad I did, because when I called the airport, they had my laptop safely stored, and they said I could pick it up on my return to the airport. And the other thing, in line with what Terri is saying, my device was encrypted. So there was no opportunity for someone to access information that they shouldn't have access to. So everything was encrypted and password protected, because it can happen. And when you're traveling this summer, things get really confusing and scary. I was sharing with Caitlin how my trip last week, I was traveling with laundry scent beads, and they called the bomb squad in because they thought it was a bomb. So things were just upside down, stressful, trying to get to the gates on time, and you can easily forget an important carry-on such as your laptop computer or even your phone. While I was in law school, I was sitting at the gate. I don't know if you remember this, Terri, but I was sitting at the gate, and of course I was all crazy going to school, traveling. I was on the West Coast in California, traveling back to Nashville, and I got up to dispose of my drink before I got on the plane, and my phone was gone. Somebody took my phone. So, of course, it was password protected, and I contacted Verizon, had to get a new phone and transfer all the data. So, stuff like that can happen when you're traveling. And with summer months, the airports are really full and lots of confusion. So, Caitlin, what about encrypting data? What's your thought on that?
Yeah, certainly it's advisable to encrypt any data stored on your device. Encryption is essentially a process whereby the data is protected and only someone who has that encryption key can get in and use that data. So if your laptop was fully encrypted and somebody else got a hold of it because you left it at TSA or dropped it somewhere, they might be able to get into the device, but none of the data would be usable or accessible.
So, that's some good information, Caitlin. Terri, so when not using the computer, what should we do? So if you're about to go through the airport or get on a plane or you're traveling, getting into a cab or an Uber, what are some tips for those issues that come up?
Well, great question, Olivia. The most important thing you want to do is completely turn it off. Don't put it in standby mode. Don't put it in sleep mode, or don't just close your laptop. In order to activate the password multi-factor authentication, generally you have to have the computer turned off. So you want to turn the computer off and then remember to pick it up at the end of security and put it in your bag. Then you can turn it back on.
Yeah. Good point. So, Caitlin, what about auto Wi-Fi connections? What are some precautions there that summer travelers can take?
Yeah, you want to be careful about auto Wi-Fi connection. If your phone or your laptop is set up to automatically connect to whatever available Wi-Fi there is, you run the risk of connecting to an unsecured network. An unsecured network is a hazard because it puts you at risk for a sort of cyber attack where the cyber criminal or hacker accesses your data when you're on an unsecured network. So they take a look at the data packets you're sending from your device to a server or wherever, and through that method, they can see passwords or sensitive data. So long story short, you don't want to connect to an unsecured Wi-Fi, a public Wi-Fi. If you go to an airport, oftentimes there's like a million different hotspots that are available that you could hop on. You don't want to do that. And so just go ahead and turn off that setting on all of your devices so you're not unwittingly getting onto these unsecured networks.
Good points. And, we advocate do not use public networks. So that's guest Wi-Fi. Do not use them at conferences. Do not use them in airports and so on. Do not even plug in to charge your device in public areas unless you have an adapter to protect your device. Some years back, there was a physician that went to a little coffee shop during his workday, and he was reviewing x-rays of his patients, and he was on the public network at the coffee shop, and a cyber criminal intercepted, and all of those records were breached. So we do want to take these necessary precautions. We would suggest that you do not travel with a practice device unless you are the owner of the practice or a director or an upper management that you need to stay connected. It's just too risky to leave a device behind. And we hope that these tips will help our summer travelers to avoid data breaches and keep the information secure. So thank you for tuning in with In Step with Compliance, and we look forward to seeing you next week.